All right. You ready, Fuddy?
Let's do it.
All right. I have to prepare for this.
Oh, God. No, you don't.
I do have to prepare for it.
You know what? Just go. This is the intro. This is the intro now. You've prepared for it. There you go.
Yeah. Good job preparing, idiot. You squandered your opportunity. Just start the fucking pod.
No, we're starting it. We're doing this right. Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast. I just can't because it's too many times. I mean, this is what happens when a guest comes on just too much. He's overstayed his welcome. I think that's what this is. But no, I mean, he's just too good. We can't not have him back. He is one of the hosts of the Super Hoopers podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Also, a Sopranos podcast, which is even if you're not a Sopranos fan, you should just listen. It's good. It's good stuff. If you are a Sopranos fan, you're not listening to it. What are you doing? He's the one. He's the only man, the myth, the legend. David Futernick.
What's up, John? How are you? How about that Sims dunk?
You know,
I thought he was. I thought he hit his face on the fucking rim. Which is his trademark, right? Like hitting his face on the rim.
He did that in the combine. What was it, like the combine workout or something, right?
Yeah. They just kept re-showing that one highlight when he got drafted over and over again.
How many times in your life have you hit your face on a basketball rim, and what was the height of the rim when you did it?
Oh, geez. I mean, it was always probably a plastic rim as a child, you know.
Those are listen, man. Will you put that? Well, you also if you don't have a lot of ceiling height and you put it on the top of a bathroom door, you might be able. You hit your head on the top of like the ceiling if you get a little too aggressive. I was such a loser as a child. As a child.
Well, yeah. Now I'm. There's another word for what I am now. As a child, I parked my ass in the TV room on Saturday morning. I watched Saved by the Bell and all that shit on NBC, inside stuff. And then NBA on NBC came on, and I had a whole little setup in there where I had a UConn garbage can. You know the garbage cans that everybody had, like the tin.
Sure, I had a mixed one, obviously.
So I had a UConn one that had a hockey goalie stick that went into it, and then on top of that was like the hoop that was given to me as like a really little kid.
Okay,
so it raised it up, to dunking height, 6 feet for me. So
I've never played. I'm not gonna lie. I played like hockey for like phys ed in high school. But is a hockey stick 6 feet tall?
No, altogether. It made like this contraption that was 6 feet tall.
Okay.
And I played basketball by myself watching NBA on NBC every Saturday. And just being Marv Albert to myself. A lot of yes. A lot of yeses by myself. My parents were quite worried about me for a while. Just really worried about my mental ability.
Let me ask you something, because you are what I like to call a serious actor. But if there was
says you okay,
if there was ever an opportunity for you to like host some kind of a sports variety show, would you do you see that as something that would be in your wheelhouse, like to be a latter day Ahmad Rashad?
I would never say never, but whatever network is casting that would definitely say never. So I am not host material. Anytime I audition for commercials where it's like someone talking to camera about the product, like I can't do that shit. I just can't do it.
Okay.
No, I can't fake the peppy,
That's true. You do like Ahmad Rashad. So, but here's the thing about Ahmad Rashad. It's like you knew he was faking it, but there was something so real and genuine about the faking that
yes.
I don't know how he pulled it off, but it was like you couldn't look away.
It's an acquired skill. The good hosts can do that, seem genuine, but also into what they're talking about.
Yes.
I can't hide my disdain for things. Not in my DNA.
Human interest stories that's not going to catch your fancy.
I love seeing them, but yeah, introducing them and like pepping a crowd up for it, probably it goes somewhere else.
So you brought up the garbage can. Good transition from garbage can to what we're here to talk about today. We're going to do the thing with you today where you get to, or what every American male loves to do, and probably most American people, I would assume, is just, relive a little bit of their college memories. Because you went to UConn. Now, we should say... I did not go to UConn. Okay. So then you have to... I did not go to UConn. We'll have to take a step back. You were a UConn fan. I assumed you went to UConn.
Most people I went to high school with did go to UConn. Okay. That was like kind of like the pipeline.
So let's go back. Actually, we're gonna listen.
God bless my parents. I could have gone to UConn on a full acting scholarship. Okay. I chose to live in New York because
wise decision.
Cowtown in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut is not exactly the hotbed of the acting industry or show business, I should say. No, well.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So you did, but
I grew up a huge UConn fan, and still am because I went to a college that didn't have sports. So I've never had any going to college and having another team kind of cloud my fandom. I'm a UConn fan forever. That's my team. I'm very happy they're back in the Big East.
Is that baked into you if you grow up in Connecticut? If you're a hoops fan and you grow up in Connecticut, you're going to be a UConn fan?
That's the religion in the state. I mean, we had the Whalers until I was 12, 13. But they were always trash. Nobody really cared. People care more about the Whalers now because of the logo and wearing the throwbacks than they ever did when they played. Oh, fantastic logo. Yeah. I went to a lot of games. My friend's dad had season tickets, so I loved it. But nobody gave a shit about that in the state, especially not in Southern Connecticut. So, I mean, UConn basketball is the thing, especially once 95 rolled around with the Rebecca Lobo female squads.
Yeah.
To me, that's even a bigger religion in the state than the men's teams are. Gino Auriemma, if you ask me who the most popular person in the state of Connecticut is, it's Gino Auriemma. It's not even close.
Really?
He is a god. And and Jim Calhoun's up there, but Gino is he is the godfather.
Rebecca Lobo is the first female. Let me make sure this is right. Yeah, the first female athlete I ever knew who they were, and I was that person is awesome, because she was. It felt like she was the best player in college basketball for at least 1 year, and maybe more than 1 year, a few years.
Yeah, for sure. And then unfortunately, she had injuries when she got to the WNBA. Yes. But that 96 women's Olympic team was incredible with Cheryl Swoops.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I mean, Dawn Staley, who just won a gold as a coach. But yeah, UConn basketball. There's really nothing that, and especially because the state is so split as far as pro teams go. Between Boston and New York.
I was about to say, it's pretty half and half, right?
Where I grew up leans a little more Boston, but still a lot of New York fans. But it's the great uniter in the state is UConn basketball.
So who is the old, because we're going to get to Kemba. Who is the oldest UConn player that was it Lobo? Was somebody else that you remember rooting vociferously for as a fan of the team?
I mean, on the Mount Rushmore, Ray Allen is at the tippy top. He's the George Washington. I mean, he's interesting. He's the golden god. But I would also have to say, Kevin Ollie. Unfortunately, it was really sad to see that situation go south with him as the coach because I loved him as a player. He was so beloved.
So he was with Ray for. Yeah,
there was overlap.
So there's Danielle Marshall, Ali, and then
Donnie Marshall. People forget Donnie Marshall. He had a cup of coffee in the NBA.
Yes, he did. And then and then Ray Allen obviously was Ray Allen came out after his junior year. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So those were, and that team did. I should know this. If I had a little more time to research for this episode, I would. Did they win a national championship or they fell short?
They did not.
They did not.
I believe the farthest they got was the Elite Eight.
Okay.
But But they were good. That was the right. There's a famous shot that everyone in Connecticut of a certain age knows by this guy, Tate George. I think it was against Villanova. It was the first time they ever won the Big East championship. I think that's like the shot. It's like a corner three. And it's like, and that people look at that as like the turning point in the program when it started taking off. And they weren't just like the joke in the Big East. You know, they had to be taken seriously. It wasn't just Syracuse and Georgetown and Providence now, you know?
So if we fast forward a little bit, we get your Rip Hamilton.
That was God bless Khalid El-Amin, who was such a monster in college, and then
I remember Khalid
came
El-Amin
to the Bulls and ate all the deep dish pizza in Chicago and just sputtered out. Oh, that was a heartbreaker. But in college, he was unbelievable, and him and Rip were so much fun. So much fun.
And they did win a national championship. I'm pretty sure about. And then you got the Ben Gordon, Emeka Okafor championship.
Mm-hmm. Charlie Villanueva.
Yes. Yes. Villanueva.
Poor Charlie Villanueva.
How can we forget
Kevin
Charlie?
Garnett, just the biggest piece of shit. Just that has to be the worst trash talk that we ever heard, like, come out publicly. Like, just awful. For those, I'd rather not say.
No, we don't. Listen, everybody has Google.
You can look it up online.
You can go ahead. You peruse at your own leisure.
It's a little worse than Honey Nut Cheerios. It's just a little more depressing than that.
He went to a really dark place.
Yes. But man. So that team in 2004, they won the championship that year.
Yes. And then there was, you had Rudy Gay, you had Hashim to beat. And then along comes a young man by the name of Kemba Walker. And so Kemba Walker was in UConn. So you had already graduated from college by this point. So you were watching this as a sports fan in your late 20s, right? I hope I'm not aging you.
Yeah, I had just come out to LA like a couple years before because I watched the national championship run with so I have buddies out here who did go to UConn, and so we would always watch like the alumni like viewings in LA.
Okay. For
2011 and for 2014, which was great.
Yeah, no NBA players on that team, I don't think. Well, I'm sure there's one that I'm forgetting. Oh, Napier. How could I forget Napier? Yeah, of course.
Oh, Shabbat. Yeah, LeBron's
boy.
Yeah. LeBron's boy.
Yeah, that's too bad. It didn't quite work out for Miami when they traded for him on draft night.
Definitely not.
When Kemba was coming to UConn, was that like? Was he on your radar? Because I don't even think he started his freshman year, right? He was like coming off the bench.
The word was always that like he was undersized and like he wasn't gonna be great. And he had, even after his rookie season, I mean, he had his ups and downs. You
mean his freshman season?
Freshman season. But like, in the season, like the 2009-2010 season, he had a lot of issues. So
it was his sophomore year when he was a full-time starter and when he kind of started to make a name for himself.
Yep.
And then, so anyway, keep going.
Then you get to the 2010-2011 season, like the team played really well, and until like I don't know, like maybe halfway through the season, they started really being terrible. And like Jeremy Lamb was also on that team; he was great. They had a lot of talent. They just couldn't get together near the end of the season. And then, man, that Big East tournament rolled around, and like we watched every one of those games out here at a bar around the corner from my apartment called Public House. Like. That was just like probably the most fun I've like. Obviously, the NCAA tournament was incredible, but that Big East tournament was like maybe the most enjoyable like run for me as a UConn fan.
I was about to say, where does that has to rank in like the top 5 of your all time memories as like a sports fan? Because like I didn't care about UConn.
People forget how amazing the OT game was against Syracuse because it came after the Pitt game. And the Pitt game was just it mattered so much because they just couldn't beat Pitt. And that Pitt team was really fucking good.
I remember when Pitt was like nasty, those teams. Like that you didn't didn't fuck with Pitt back in the day. So it was 5 games in 5 days, which is still like
it's insane. It'll never happen again.
No, they wouldn't even allow that now.
No.
I don't know what it would violate some kind of protocol.
Right.
But so he did that, and then at that point, so was Kemba already like a god to you by the end of that championship?
I mean, he was already pretty beloved by the fan base, but yeah, I mean that bronzed his legacy.
And then we get to the NCAA tournament, which is like, I feel like I don't know if this is like anecdotal or like not true at all, but I feel like it's been said, like, if a team like, expends all its energy in a long tournament run where they have to, like, again, play a bunch of games in a short amount, like, that's not the team that you want to bet on for the NCAA tournament. And
right.
So do you remember what your thinking was before going into that NCAA tournament with Kemba?
I had no expectations because, you feed into like what the media narrative is sometimes. And like the media narrative was that this is a nice story. Maybe they can get to the Sweet 16 or whatever the fuck, maybe the Elite 8 if they're lucky. But there's no way that this team has a chance to win the championship just because like they had struggled mightily like down the stretch of the regular season. So it made sense that like you weren't totally sold on them. But once the tournament started, I mean, they were electric.
So
absolutely electric.
So I have it up here. So they were the 3 seed.
Yep.
Won not quite a nail biter against Bucknell. But if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you the Bucknell what? The Bucknell, is it like Bucknell Bears has a nice ring to it? I'm fairly certain that's not what they are.
That sounds nice.
It does sound nice, right?
I just think of Tony Soprano going, saying to Davey Scatino, like, let's see what the YO from Bucknell has to say when they're like at their like the presentations for their kids like colleges.
That's great. The Bucknell Bison.
See, you're close.
I was Bears, Bison. Start with B.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And their colors are actually orange and blue. Interesting little ditty. So then Cincinnati, then their first upset, they beat
tough Cincinnati team. Yeah, that was a fucking tough team. They seem to always have like really like underrated, gritty, tough teams. Cincinnati does. Never like playing them.
Who was their longtime head coach? Oh my God, I want to say Huggins, but it wasn't Huggins, right?
No, that's West Virginia.
That's West Virginia, but it was like they had a notable coach that was there for like a long time, and of course it's escaping me right now, but I will look it up. So then they upset technically San Diego State, although I don't really know.
Why, baby?
That's right. Yes. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Who went?
That was a team that like a lot of people thought were gonna go all the way. That was like the birth of like the San Diego State being a really good program in the tournament. I feel like.
Yeah. And then we get to the Elite 8, and it's they go up against number 5 Arizona. 2-point win. I have no recollection of this game. I don't know if you do. And then.
Sort of. I remember the next game way more.
So the next game was against Kentucky. So what are your recollections from that one?
Fuck Calipari. I've always hated Calipari. He stole. So Marcus Camby, went to my high school, and it was always a point of contention. I think that he ended up going to UMass instead of UConn.
Oh, okay.
Which at the time was probably the right move because Calipari, he's a great coach. He's just a scumbag. Pardon my French.
Buddy, please.
Look, I don't want to upset our front office. I know that, the Kentucky Knicks.
Well, that was I believe that was the first Kenny Payne. It was either the first or second year that Kenny Payne was on the bench at Kentucky. So, yeah. I
mean, like, I was sure we were going to lose that game. I was terrified of that team.
That was Brandon Knight. Terrence Jones was an NBA player.
Brandon Knight, who ended up going higher in the draft, I believe, than Kemba, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. He went. I think he was 8th, and I believe Kemba was 9th.
Kemba was 9th.
I'll double check that as well. Darius Miller.
How'd that turn out?
By the way, again, when I was researching Kemba after they made the trade, I didn't realize Kemba has scored more points than any player in that class. More points than Kawhi.
More than Kyrie.
More than Kyrie. More than Jimmy Butler. More than Klay Thompson. And a lot of those guys, which actually, I'm getting ahead of myself because it kind of leads into the basketball portion of this discussion as opposed to the nostalgia portion of it. Like, for all the shit that Kemba gets about the fact that he's like hurt and banged up and this and that, like, he's been pretty healthy.
Stayed healthier than those guys you just mentioned.
Seriously, like all of the, like players get hurt in the NBA. It happens, and it's not like he's 35, or something. He's 31.
Especially all the years that he was a slasher. I mean, he got banged around, especially at his size.
Yes.
So yeah.
And then the national championship game against Butler, which I got to think by that point you're probably like, okay, this is going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah. Although all the I feel like a lot of the media attention was still on the great genius of Brad Stevens and all that. I remember
that aging.
Yeah, I remember vividly though at the viewing party, there was some asshole he's at the UConn alumni viewing party and he's wearing a Butler shirt. I was like, this is a mistake.
Seriously?
So so halfway, we also got to the viewing party at like noon, and the game wasn't starting until like maybe 5 p.m. our time. So by the time the game started, we were fucking trashed. And every time the guy walked by, like to go to the bathroom, I just kept saying, oh, the Butler's here. Oh, great. We'll have 2 more pitchers. I thought it was so funny.
That's the type of thing that when you're saying it, you think it's the funniest thing anyone has ever thought of, because you're however many deep you are, and it's that kind of day.
Yeah, it aged better because UConn won the game. If they hadn't, that guy definitely would have come back and like spit on my face. But and he would have been, and rightly so.
It would have been at least somewhat justified to do it.
Yeah. But that game, the first half is maybe the worst game of basketball I've ever watched. It was painful. I think UConn scored like 20 points, maybe not even. It was like one of the worst shooting performances I've seen by both teams. They were both miserable. And then the Knicks turned around the second half, and rest is history. But it was bad. I mean, I think the Huskies have a little bit of an excuse, because I think at that point they were so exhausted. They finished obviously the season on an 11-game winning streak. So, right.
I mean, just unbelievable. So Kemba did it. The 6'0" point guard from the Bronx, he did it. And then we go to the NBA draft. Now, the Knicks did have a pick in that first round. Do you remember, David Futernick, who the Knicks picked in the first round of the 2011 NBA draft? I'll give you a hint if you need.
Oh yeah. I remember this. It's the guy who Knicks fans never wanted to trade away, Iman Shumpert.
You are correct.
Yeah.
17th pick. How about? Can I just see? This is why
we had some good Iman Shumpert moments.
I mean,
we did.
I will always before this season, or let me rephrase this. Between Linsanity and this season, that was a decade, right? Because Linsanity was 2010-11. This season was 2021. In that 10-year span, my highlight, like the if you ask me, like, what's one memory you have, like the highlight memory as a Knicks fan, it's probably when Shump, I don't know if he hit 2 threes, I don't know if he hit 3 threes, but when him and Melo, and I want to say it was like, maybe was there some Chris Copeland in Game 6 against Indiana when it looked like they were gonna take that game. I watched that. Talk about great stories. Watch that game in an Applebee's out here.
Oh, Jesus.
Out here on the island that is long. Yes. Had just started dating Dolores, and she was like,
you were feeling good in the neighborhood, baby.
Oh, I was.
Oh yeah.
I was feeling a little too good in the neighborhood. I don't think the neighborhood wanted me back after that.
Fair.
So yeah, that was Shumpert went. So can I just go down this draft, because this is like this is why I love the NBA draft. So first pick, obviously that year, Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
Second pick, in undisputed second pick. Like there was I think maybe there wasn't talk that he would go first ever, but like very clear second pick, Derek Williams, because he had tore up Arizona.
Knicks legend,
Derek Williams, Arizona legend. A guy who Kyrie beat, who Kemba beat in the NCAA tournament. Third pick, again, sticking with the once a Nick, always Nick, Enes Kanter. Who was again? Kemba beat him in the tournament, even though he didn't get off the bench because he wasn't like allowed to play or whatever that situation was.
Right.
It was some kind of kooky thing. So Kanter was the third pick. Tristan Thompson, fourth pick to the Cavs.
Oh, the Cavs had two picks, right?
Because it was the Baron Davis trade that netted them the first pick in the draft, where the Baron Davis like salary dump or something from the Clippers.
Thank God they won in 2016. Because Jesus, this draft could have looked miserable for them.
I remember there was like
taking Tristan.
Yeah. No, I remember there was like talk about like, would they trade up from 4, try to get to 2? So they have like 1 and 2. Oh, that didn't happen. Fifth, Jonas Valanciunas with Toronto, still kicking around. Sixth pick, didn't quite happen for him. Jan Vesely with the Wizards. It's too bad. It's a tough break. Speaking of tough breaks, seventh, Sacramento. I think they immediately traded his rights. Bismack Biyombo. Eighth, the aforementioned Brandon Knight, and then Kemba Walker went ninth.
And where was Clay?
So this is where it gets really interesting. One pick after Kemba to Milwaukee, Jimmer Fredette.
Oh, another Knick legend.
Who went one pick ahead of future Hall of Famer Klay Thompson.
Oh, that hurts. That's bad.
If you're a Bucks fan, that leaves a mark. Although I guess not so much anymore because you just won the championship. 12th pick, once a Nick, always a Nick. Alec Burks.
Hey.
13th.
Wow, I did not realize he was drafted in 2011.
He was drafted then. 13th pick, Markieff Morris. 14th pick.
Fouled by his brother, right?
14th pick. You can't, right? In what universe do two brothers get drafted? Same year, one pick, one after the other. Marcus Morris. Again, of course, once a Nick, always a Nick. And then is where we have some fun. 15th, Kawhi Leonard. 16th, Nikola Vucevic. 17th, Iman Shumpert. How you doing? And then, by the way, 2 picks later,
so close. 19th, classic Knicks draft.
19th pick, Tobias Harris. And then
could have gone Tobias.
Could have gone Tobias there. Had the pedigree coming out of Tennessee. You know, maybe Allen Houston should have been a little bit more.
Should have stepped up,
given the nudge. And then, of course, 30th pick that year with Jimmy Butler. Not yet a Nick. Probably someday will be a Nick when he's 37 years old.
I could see it. Definitely could see it.
Was there? I forget. Was there any like? I don't remember at all. Was there any talk of like the Knicks trying to like trade up to get Kemba? I don't remember any buzz about that whatsoever before this draft.
No, I don't, because I definitely would have remembered that.
Yeah. This was coming off of Linsanity. So I mean, like, man, could you imagine what would it?
No, wait, wasn't Linsanity 2012? Or it was
You're right.
It was 2012.
Sorry, I got my years wrong. So this is before Linsanity. So that would, but this was the Knick team that was desperate for a point guard because they got Chandler, but they had to get rid of Chauncey Billups to get Chandler. And like everybody was excited. It's like, all right, Chandler, Stat, Melo, we got our front court, you know, and then it was like, oh, well, we don't really technically have a point guard, but that's fine. We'll figure it out. And then fast forward to opening night, Tony Douglas, baby.
Tony Douglas.
You can't write this shit. Tony Douglas was our opening night starter at point guard, and that did not go so well.
Was he not as good as Kemba? I don't remember.
I don't think he quite lived up to that height. So so Kemba gets drafted by Charlotte. I'm curious, as obviously a big UConn fan, how close attention did you pay to Kemba over the years while he was with the Hornets?
Oh, a ton. I mean, like I love, like I cherish him. When talk was obviously that like Kyrie and KD were on the move, and that whole offseason, I had in an ideal world, and now it turned out to maybe be for the best because of Kemba's injuries last season. But I had hoped in an ideal world that somehow KD and Kemba would be the two guys that came to the Knicks. I don't think that ever had any chance of happening, especially after the KD injury. Obviously, the Knicks were like out on KD. At least, right? That's the last. I mean, there's so much conflicting reporting, but that's the last we heard, right? That like they didn't even decide to meet with him because they were like, no, and he was a package deal with Kyrie, and they didn't want anything to do with Kyrie, which I completely agree with.
I view that situation as having played out slightly differently.
Yes, yeah.
I think that was George Costanza trying to get hand,
saving face.
Yeah.
But that offseason, in my head, which obviously probably never had any chance of coming to fruition.
I don't know about that. So my thinking, I remember going, because I had started to think I had floated the Brooklyn thing. Like, why wouldn't Durant go to Brooklyn? Like, what does he give a shit about the Knicks history? If he just wants to be in New York, he'll go to Brooklyn. And so I started thinking like, well, could we get Kemba and Jimmy Butler? That was my thinking.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. And then that
would have been amazing.
Well, man, but then you don't get Leon. I don't think you get Leon Rose. I don't think you get, my God, who was it? That was Fizdale. I was about to say, who's that coach?
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
What is that? Well, but Kemba made the All-Star team the first year after he signed with Boston. Yes. And Jimmy Butler obviously, went to the damn finals. He was pretty good with the Heat. Still is pretty good. I don't know. That's an interesting alternate universe, right?
Sure. Then, we would have been holding the bag for Kemba.
No Julius.
No Julius. No RJ.
Ooh. Wait.
I mean, no. We right?
No. So that RJ.
Oh, we would have had we would have had RJ.
Yeah. But do they flip that? Do they flip that pick immediately along with like future draft assets to try to go big three? I don't even know who the third would have been, but like you could have seen them trying to do that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. So, but that didn't happen. Kemba goes to Boston, which I'm sure was tons of fun for you.
Heartbreaking, especially because I have so many friends who are who share my love of UConn, but also are Boston sports fans. So they were really rubbing it in. That broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart.
The first year in Boston, I feel like there was mostly positive vibes in terms of the Kemba part of it.
Yeah. I mean, the genius Brad Stevens, he gets the best out of his players. I mean,
clearly. Do you think that they're on the way down? Is there a world where the Celtics are just become an absolute dumpster fire of an organization, or am I just trying to talk that into existence?
I think it's a little of both. I can see it going either way. They have the talent. I mean, Tatum is incredible. Obviously, they dealt with injuries and Tatum having COVID and coming back from COVID, which obviously hit him so hard last season. So I wouldn't count them out. I mean, they have a lot of talent on that team, and I trust Tatum and Brown. But like, what are they going to do? Because obviously, that's not a championship contending team.
No, but Tatum, it killed my soul a little bit when Durant basically dapped Tatum as like, okay, it's your turn next. You're the next guy at these Olympics. Like, I was like, man,
right.
And you know what? He has the talent to do it too, which is,
he's the man.
Yeah.
That's what kills me. I love that team. Like, I hate to admit it because I hate Boston so much, but I love Tatum and Brown.
Yeah.
I really do.
I like them too. I don't think they're the issue. I think it's a lot of the other stuff. So maybe there's just too much talent there for them to go that route.
Yeah.
Last season happens, and obviously Kemba doesn't play first 11 games, and like it's up and down. It was coming on late. Playoffs did not go so well. Missed the last 2 games against Brooklyn, and now we're before he got the news of the buyout hit. Did you think about like, well, what would happen? Did you think he would like start the season on OKC? Did you think someone would like break down and take on the contract? Where were you at mentally?
I assumed like he would for sure start the season on OKC. They would try to do some sort of rehab situation with him, get his value up a little bit, and then try to trade him at the deadline. That seemed to be the most likely path for them. I'm still a little puzzled why they just let him walk. Unless you just feel like we got the first rounder for him. We have Trey Mann and we have SGA, and that's our backcourt, and like we're just moving on to the future. But also, I just don't really understand what Presti is doing.
You can only kick the can down the road so much, right? I don't know, man.
Is that situation the biggest nightmare for Tibbs? Just a pile of draft picks?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, if you believe some of the reporting, that's kind of how Brock Aller wanted to go about this. And like Leon Rose has been walking this tightrope, which he's not a small man. I don't know if you've seen pictures of Leon Rose. Walking a tightrope for him is it can't be easy.
Not easy.
But he's been walking it, and he's been doing obviously a damn good job of it, because they're kind of having their cake and eating it too here.
Right. Yeah.
And now I saw the exact same thing as you, and I figured like, this is the NBA. Teams will talk themselves into shit. Like if you got Kemba out there and he just looked like some semblance of himself, some team would be like, all right, well, but maybe that's what it comes down to, is that Presti looked around and he had his conversations or whatever, and he just didn't see the team that was going to give him the thing that he would have wanted. And maybe this was, maybe it really was. He just wanted to do a solid by a guy who's like loved around the league. I know his age. I forget which agent he has, but I know it's a prominent agent. I don't know. Maybe that's all it was.
I mean, you could see a world where like he was just like, look, you got something for me. I really want to go home. He likes the situation that's developing in New York, and it's the right time for him to come. I mean, if he had come in the Fizdale era, I feel like that could have gone so fucking.
But you can say that about anything. If thing X happened in the Fizdale era, that could have gone really poorly. Like, yes.
The one good thing that went great seems to be the Porzingis trip.
It's a shame that trip to Latvia. I hope for the Mavericks' sake and all their fans that this impending trip. Did they get off the plane yet?
The trip to Slovenia.
I see that Mark Stein is Mark Stein like on the plane with them? Is like because he's reporting. He's like the Dallas guy, so obviously he has the intel.
Right.
But I want like shot by shot of like how the conversation is going. Is Luka having like a latte? Is he conducting the meeting from like a sports car, like as it's driving? Maybe is
there a goat being brought out, offering up the goat to Mark Cuban?
Could you fucking imagine what would happen on NBA Twitter if there was a report? I don't know who. I guess it would be Stein, maybe Woj or something. Where it's like, after consideration, Luka Doncic has decided to play out the final year of his rookie contract and will not sign an extension.
Oh my God.
Could you? What's the last time that NBA Twitter will have been set on fire to that degree? I can't.
Probably like Paul George and Kawhi like on the move that night.
That's probably would be it. I woke up to that shit in Vegas. We were in Vegas.
We were in Vegas. The earthquake.
Was that the more?
It was the earthquake night.
It was the earthquake night. Okay,
yeah.
But I was asleep when I had gone to bed already when that happened, and I woke up to
that. Yeah. I mean, that's up there, but I mean, it would be. I think. If it was combined with like a shot of Luka running on a track, I think that would be the ultimate. I think Twitter would collapse.
Twitter would collapse. That would be great. That'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, we've gone off topic. We'll finish up here. Look, a lot of shit happened over the last several years. David Fizdale's not the coach anymore. Tom Thibodeau, thankfully, is the coach. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to love this team.
Absolutely. There are a lot of parallels between like Tibbs' style and Jim Calhoun's style. And Jim Calhoun, I would imagine Kemba is perhaps the favorite player that he ever coached, because there were so many strikes against him. I mean, I remember when he was getting drafted, I had this shows you like what a poor talent observer I am. I worried about him as much as I worried about Steph Curry coming into the league, just because of their size.
Okay.
I had worries about them and their durability. I have the same concerns for James Bouknight, which also also heartbreaking for me to see another UConn legend go to the Hornets and but he's going to a fun team.
Yeah, they'll be fun.
Him.
I'm excited to watch them this year.
They'll be fun. I think I don't see them playing a ton of defense, but they're going to score a ton of points.
Yeah. No, that'll be fun.
But the Calhoun Tibbs comparison I think is valid. Like I think he's really going to like playing for him, and Tibbs is really going to love him. Now, my biggest thing is like how crafty does Tibbs get with handling Kemba and Rose?
So this is the thing that I'm in the process of,
because you want to keep them both healthy come down the stretch, and come playoff time.
I think,
fingers crossed.
I would have to think long and hard about this, but I just off the top of my head, when is the last time a third string player on any team in recent NBA history had as much more importance as whoever the third string point guard on the Knicks is effectively going to be?
Which, but I apologies, I haven't listened to the latest step of the pod yet today, but I don't know what you and Jeremy's reactions were. Yeah. Well, now I'm never listening to it. But I people were like getting upset with me on Twitter yesterday, but like I have serious concerns about IQ running point. It just doesn't look right.
I don't think he's a point guard, I think
I don't either.
I think this is.
But people are like, it's too early to say that. I'm like, and I do think he's going to grow a lot with Kemba on the team. I think he's going to be an incredible mentor for him.
Yes, he will.
But he's a shooter. Like he's a shooter. He's not. He's just doesn't have that first step. He doesn't have like the ball handling and the he doesn't make decisions fast enough. He's too tentative with the ball in his hands. So look, that can change. He's still so young, but at this point, to me, honestly, we overreact to summer league way too often. We do. But Deuce to me looked like maybe he could be that guy.
To me, the point guard,
but the playing time has to be there.
Yeah, no, but so the point guard question to me is I don't care about it that much, because as I've been talking about for seemingly the last several months, it's just about like if you have a player who could put the ball on the floor and can make something happen with a possession if their first option is taken away from them, right? I think that's what Quickly has the capability of doing. I don't envision Quickly ever becoming a guy that you're going to just like, okay, you're the point guard, you're running the show for 25 minutes tonight. Like that's not, I don't think that's him, but that to me, that doesn't mean like I'm still incredibly high on him. And that's why I'm not like terribly concerned about what he did in his first summer league game. And who knows, maybe he comes out in 7 minutes from now.
Today.
And looks great. We remains to be seen. I, like you, am very high on the Deuce Man. Can't wait to see more of him. But I am the notion that he's going to wind up being the third string point guard. Is it going to be Vildoza? I even wonder, and we haven't really got into this, but like there was the report that they made an offer to Kendrick Nunn, and there was on the green room this week, somebody brought up like, well, what does that say about their pursuit of Kemba and this and that? And like, there's definitely a salary cap issue there. But I wonder if they weren't trying to bring in both guys in addition to Rose, because Nunn could play off ball. He really is more of a shooting guard than a point guard, but he could also be your kind of like your nominal point guard. Maybe. So you think Kemba might have even taken less money? I don't. If it made it work. We also haven't gotten reports of the number from Oklahoma City. I mean, Kemba's made a lot of money in his career, but at the same time, he hasn't made that much because he had to settle for a 4-year, $48 million deal from Charlotte for his second contract, which was obscene that he had to settle for that, especially when like a bunch of the guys that got drafted ahead of him, your Biyambos, your Valanciunas, your Tristan Thompson, like all those guys got paid more money than Kemba fucking Walker on their second contract. But I digress. Anyway, I think it's a concern, but to me, if they manage the situation correctly, and it is a situation that must be managed, this cannot be like, oh, we'll figure it out as we go along. And like, this is one of those things where I wonder, Tibbs he's got as big a personality as there is in the league. And Leon, this is where Leon Rose is going to, I don't know what the hell he's getting paid to run the Knicks, but this is where he's going to earn his money, where if he has to tell Tibbs, like, look, you're going to listen to these fucking people who tell you when you can and when you can't play these guys, and you're not going to like it, and you're going to fucking live with it because we have to. So
completely agree.
Yeah.
And Leon seems to have the gravitas to do that.
If anybody does. And specifically with Tibbs, which is why when we spoke about Tibbs getting hired, whatever it was, a year and a half ago, we were like, Leon can rein him in and hopefully key in on the good and maybe eliminate some of the bad. Because if they figure this shit out, man, the talent is there.
It feels deep. Look, we don't have the three-headed monster that other teams do, obviously, but it feels deep enough to certainly be a far better team this year than we were last year. Obviously possible that we have a lower seed than we did this past year because the East is so deep, but you just never know how things shake out. I mean, you just don't. Exactly. Like, our team is better. We have more shooting now. And if Kemba can be even just like 70% of what he was 2 years ago, there are going to be nights where he lights up the Garden. It's going to be so incredible.
Well, you save your bullets, right? Like, you save your bullet. Like, I think the bullets are still maybe not the best analogy, but like, I still think it's in there because we even saw it last year in Boston when he was going through. Like, you can't still make the moves that he's able to make. Like, maybe he's not going to get to the line as much. Maybe he's not going to get to the rim as much. Maybe he's not creating off the dribble as much on the perimeter. But if he could just pull it out when he needs to on this team with this group of guys, I'm pretty excited.
Totally. And I feel like maybe slightly higher just because of my love of him specifically as the player he is, and like my history as a UConn fan of his. But like, I'm trying to keep my expectations near the same spot that I had for Derrick Rose when he came over. That's where it's slightly higher because I think he might have more in the tank maybe than Derrick. And then we'll see. We'll see. I'd like to be pleasantly surprised. That's my hope.
I wouldn't mind at all. I think they managed to, keep the chemistry where it was because, like, you're not going to add a better guy than Kemba Walker, but while upgrading the talent. So we'll see how it works out. David Futernick, tell folks at home where they could find you and all of your fabulous material.
David Futernick on Twitter. Sopranos Pod, as John mentioned, at Sopranos Pod, at the Super Hoopers. And on your TV screen soon.
Anything I could look out for?
Not sure when my Amazon show is coming out, but I'll be in 5 episodes of a new Amazon show. Should be out soon-ish. And then in November, I'm in an episode of a show on or limited series.
Is it a limited series? Is that what it is? Technically? Yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't know. On Apple Plus, called The Shrink Next Door with Will Ferrell and Catherine Hahn. I don't get super excited for many, like, I'm such a nerd for like non-comic book like crap. I'm excited for that, and not just because you're in it. I think it's cool that you're in it. I'm excited for just the show. I'm
a very small part of one episode, but I think it's going to be really good. The podcast that it's based on is amazing, and the footage that I've seen from it is great, and the trailer gets you super hyped up for it. I saw that trailer. I was like, yes, I'm all in. Just feed it to me. Lots to look forward to. You're the man. Yes. You're the man. No, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.